Russian President Vladimir Putin is announcing plans to station nuclear weapons in the country of Belarus, which shares a border with Ukraine. NATO nations slammed the Russian president for what they call dangerous rhetoric, while White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said there is no indication Russia plans to use nuclear weapons. Joining us tonight to weigh in on all this, Vince Coglianese, editorial director of the Daily Caller and host of the Vince Coglianese Show. Vince, great to have you with us. Some pretty alarming headlines here. What's your take on this?
I mean, it is, of course, concerning. I think we are locked in a very dangerous game of chicken right now with a nuclear-armed country, Russia. And I don't think the Biden administration is giving very clear answers to the American public on how this ends. That is of great concern to me. Clearly, when it comes to Vladimir Putin, we have to rely on the idea that he is bluffing, but he certainly wasn't bluffing about his invasion of Ukraine. So when he starts talking about wanting to place nuclear weapons and even flirting with any use of nuclear weapons whatsoever, I think it would be foolish to ignore that. It's important that we pay attention to it and factor in the probability, the possibility that that actually occurs, God forbid.
And what do you make of the Biden administration's response to what they're seeing?
They're just telling us, hey, there's nothing happening here. Don't worry. I think the most important thing for the Biden administration to do, though, is to lay out for the American public what the end state of this is. If you ask members of the military, anybody who's ever been involved in a military mission, they always say you have to know what your end state is. What is the goal? And thus far, the Biden administration has not given clear answers because obviously Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky, they want very different things. Vladimir Putin wants to take eastern Ukraine. At the very least, Vladimir Zelensky wants to retake everything back that existed in Ukraine prior to the invasion. Plus, he wants to also take Crimea back from 2014. That would bring this war to a whole nother level. And the Biden administration has yet to give clear answers on where the United States stands, given that we are financing almost the entire war on the Ukrainian side.
Switching gears here a little bit to President Biden's approval numbers, a recent AP poll shows those numbers dipping slightly below 38%. That's near the lowest numbers of his presidency. What's your take on that?
I'm not surprised by it at all. I mean, this is an administration that has left a lot of people with discontent, including people who've supported Joe Biden in the first place. And that is the product of the way people are living their lives right now and experiencing what is happening in the country. So just some basic examples for you. Obviously, the border crisis continues to be a massive problem. You're seeing infighting within the administration, the Biden administration, over this now. As people like the Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz say things that you would never hear Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS Secretary, say about the failures at our border. You also have an economy where things are so much more expensive. In other words, people are poorer now than before Joe Biden took office. We're watching banking crisis after banking crisis. You have towns like East Palestine, Ohio, that get ignored by the Biden administration as a toxic chemical cloud burns over that town until there's just so much public pressure that the Biden administration has to say something. So I would say it's story after story after story like this that is leaving Joe Biden about as unpopular as he's ever been.
Vince, what else is on your radar? What else are you following?
Well, obviously, in Washington, D.C., a big debate this past week was parental rights. The House Republicans passed a piece of legislation designed to give parents a, quote, bill of rights when it comes to the education of their children. And this kind of makes sense, actually, for the federal government to do because federal taxpayers pay 8% of all public school expenditures across the country. So in exchange for that money, there's some basic expectations that taxpayers will have. House Republicans put forward a bill that said, look, if you are going to teach my child something, I should know what's in the curriculum. You have to make that public. If my child can't read by third grade, that has to be disclosed to me. That's so important that a child be able to read by third grade. If there's violence in the schools, it has to be made publicly known to the parents. These are basic expectations of public availability of this information. The unfortunate thing for parents who want to see that happen, Senate Democrats have no interest in passing it. And so we'll see. But right now, that thing looks like it's dead on arrival in the United States Senate.
Vince Coglianese, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us tonight.